I was biting the time zone, and we embellished the banks of our bloodstreams, and threw caution to the colourful. I then we fell asleep in the car until the bumps woke me up in your grip, and the tide took me to your mouth, and it swept me back down to your palms. It's then that put me inside the reminder that yours is the only ocean that I wanna swing from. Yours is the only ocean that I wanna handle. I've got this seagull mechanic, she's always trying to give me vitamins. I should be frightened of your.
Right, so my first encounter with Dirty Dan was when I was on Green Mountain. Now, this was my very first time on the server, and I wasn't very popular. I went by the Drifter for a long time, but anyway, so I set up no tents. I didn't have a single tent. I just was up on Green Mountain, and I had some gear. I dropped it. I assumed, I wasn't even very smart. I just assumed that everything would stay there. And so, you know, I dropped gear and I posted all the time. I was like, hey, come to Green Mountain, got gear, anybody want it, blah, blah. Well, nobody came. And those that did come, they were just like, fuck you, boring. But then one day, Dan came. Now, I didn't have any gear. I think I was just hanging out up there. And I had recently been talking about, you know, screw cannibals, cannibals are bad and all that. And at this time, Dan was a cannibal. So I'm up on Green Mountain, and I've got my gun out, and I remember this very clearly. Dan comes up to the gate, and I have the total drop on him. Like, I think at this point I knew he was a cannibal, but Dan just has this charismatic way of talking to you. So he was just like, hey dude, why don't you put that gun down, man? And I was like, you know what, that sounds cool. Let me not have my gun out. So he talks me out of holding my gun, and we talk for a bit. Nicest dude in the world. And then I go inside the jailhouse, and he just says, hands up. And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? Ties me down instantly, puts me in the jailhouse. I'm sitting there kneeling, and he tells me to be quiet. And I'm like, okay, alright. And, you know, at this point, I'm just like, you know, what the fuck's going on? What's gonna happen? Am I gonna die? You know, I wasn't, like, extremely well geared, but, you know, I was obviously worried for myself. And then, like, I'm kneeling down, and I'm looking around inside my little jail cell, thinking of a way to get out, and I hear another dude on the outside, and he talks, and he's like, oh, hey, guys, what's up? I heard there was some trading going on up here. And Dan just, he aims his gun out at the front doors, and he tells that guy to come on inside, and we'll do some trading. And the guy was like, alright, awesome, sounds cool. And he comes in, and as soon as he sees me tied up there on the floor, he's like, oh shit, and Dan ties him up. So there we are, sitting, tied up, and Dan, you know, is looking at us, all the while extremely like the best roleplay I've ever even seen. Like, this guy, his voice doesn't crack, falter, do anything. This guy is like legitimately the wildest cannibal ever alive. And he tells the other guy, like, you know, he was talking to the other guy about something. Then he looks at me and he asks me to choose who lives and who dies. And I sat there for a bit, and I was, you know, again, I was just sitting around like, you know, oh my god, is this real? Does he really want me to choose? And I thought about it, and I was like, you know what, I'll do the good guy thing. So I told him to kill me, and he said that was very noble of me. And, you know, he ended up killing me, alright, with a pitchfork right to my face. And, you know, I immediately sprinted back up to Green Mountain, you know, thinking, hey, maybe I can save this dude's life. And by the time I got back there, all there was left was bones and guts. So I assume that he let that guy go, but can't say that I know that for sure. Right, so my most recent encounter with Dan was also a result of trying to control Green Mountain. And he was contracted by Dam to kill me. So, Green Mountain fell. I knew that would happen. I kind of ignored everyone's warnings and all that stuff. And, I was just hanging with my boys, messing around, setting up a new base camp, fun stuff. And then Dan messages me, and he was like, "Hey, man, heard you needed help." And mind you, I haven't talked to this guy since the first time we met, which has been months and months. So I was just like, yeah, man, why not? Sounds good. I knew Dan was a good player. I was like, hell, he could probably really help me. So we meet in Severograd, I believe. We are at the construction site. I had found a barrel, and he was like, "Oh, hey, dude. Just by the way, I actually know I know where I put my barrels at, so why don't you put yours with mine, and then we can have sort of a little cool barrel base situation going on." And I was like, "Hey man, that sounds fucking awesome. Hell yeah, why not?" And we're about to go do that, and then my buddy Joe Freeman, he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey man, I just want you to know that I found this SVD, and I know that you don't have any cool weapons or anything like that." And he gave it to me. He gave me an SVD. I've never had anything more than a blaze before. So this was awesome. So me and Dan trek for a while, and then we finally get to this little neck of the woods that's completely out in the middle of nowhere. And he tells me to put my barrel down right over there. So I'm like, all right, awesome. I'm not really thinking in my head, where the fuck are his barrels at? Because I can't see any. He's just got this way of talking, that just puts my guard down. I was just like, hey, that's fine, everything's A-okay. But I put my barrel down, and he was like, "Oh, hey, man, you thirsty?" And I was like, "Yeah, you know what, I could actually go for a drink," but I had a drink on me, so I was drinking. And in the most nonchalant way possible, he was just like, "Hey, once you're done with that drink, I'm gonna need you to put your hands up." And I was like, what? I kind of thought about it for a minute, and I was like, oh, shit. He was like, "Yep, sorry, man, put your hands up." And I was like, fuck. So, I did it, and he was really cool about it, actually. It was very in character, very cool of him, but he can't think of what I'm trying to say here. He just read the contract to me. Told me I was gonna die. Told me I wasn't gonna get out of it. But I asked for one last request and told him to shoot me with that SVD that I never even got to shoot, which makes me sad. But that's the way the world works. So don't cross Dan if you want to survive. That's about all the warning I can give you.